Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Winners Ways podcast. This is where we talk about your career, your money, and we give you life motivation to excel. Today we have a guest with us. We have Chris Masiello, and together with Chris, this today we are going to be talking about vision. We'll talk about change, and we will touch on mindfulness because I know Chris is a mindful guy and he wants you guys to be mindful. Chris is an entrepreneur, author, and he is an empowerment leader. I'm sure you guys will benefit a lot from my conversation with Chris today. And without keeping you waiting any further, I'm going to bring in my guest, Chris. Hey, Chris, how are you?
Good, Bol. Good to be with you and your community. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us. So, can you please introduce yourself to my audience so that they can get to know you better?
Sure, happy to. Chris Masiello, and I'm from New England, New Hampshire specifically, and I've been in business entrepreneurship for about 40 years, and do a wide variety of things. So, we have several operating companies. We operate one of the largest commercial residential real estate brokerages in northern New England, New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont. We also operate finance entities and also private equity. So I'm really fortunate that I've had a lot of diversity, in my career and the opportunity to work really with some pretty amazing people. And anything that we share or we talk about is, really what I've learned from working with so many special people that have taught me a lot. And our organization is about north of $2 billion in sales and revenue. And then we also, as I said, we also operate a private equity investment company. It's for me, the opportunity to work with people is, philosophically for me is obvious. It's the opportunity to work on myself too. So, anything we talk about is really kind of, me pulling from the collective. So
I completely agree with that. So, looking at your journey, Chris, from you said you've been an entrepreneur in business for over 40 years.
yeah, 40 years. Yeah, started my late teens. So
Oh, that's been a long time. So,
that's a long time.
so what would you say is the role of vision in how far you have come? You are a business leader, obviously, you are an author. From everything you've accomplished, and you also spoke about your the equity company, the private equity company, as well as the residential company that you talked about. So, what is the role of vision in getting you to where you are today, Chris?
Yeah, it's a great question, and everybody handles their visioning differently. Um, However, you need to have a vision. If you don't have a vision, you're going to fall victim to a random circumstance. And so whatever your vision is, and wherever you want to see yourself, you have to be able to develop that ability to project yourself into the future, into where you want to be. And I don't necessarily think it's a complicated process, but if you can set your vision for what you want to accomplish, and you can, and just sidebar to that, you can have multiple visions, for different things. And we operate a number of different operating companies, finance entities, title company, mortgage. We do all sorts of different things. And each one of them, has their own kind of vision. But as an entrepreneur, the question is like where's your North Star? Like, where do you want to see yourself a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Where do you want your family to be? Right? All these types of things. And I think what happens is that we get so busy, being, entrepreneurs and dads and spouses, and for me, grandfather, and I'm very involved with my grandchildren, and it's easy to lose track of setting a vision and reminding yourself of it.
Yeah, no, that's completely true. So, what is the role of goal setting in, getting you to that vision that's of where you want to be?
One of the things that that when you're looking at setting goals or setting a vision for things is we're all in a Western sense, right? We're all very kind of action orientated, and but I started meditating years ago, and I think finding time to kind of reflect before you just launch into, I'm going to do these 10 things, right? I got which of course we all have to make checklists and we all have to have goals and things like that, but really kind of ruminating on them a little bit before we just like launch into them. I think that's like really critical. And
Right.
and how do we feel about them? Right now, are we setting goals because are we setting, bullet? Are we setting goals because it's what people are expecting of me, or are we setting goals because this is where my heart is? And I think so. Before we start launching into goal setting, what we want to do is like, well, where's my heart with this?
Okay.
And does this feel authentic to me? And am I doing this because it's what I want, or am I doing this because what it's expected of me? Am I doing this because this is what the industry thinks I should do? And all those types of things. So I think the first step in goal setting is taking the time and creating the space so that you can sense into your heart. Where's your emotion on where you want to be?
Okay, that's good. You say take the time, create a space, and look into your heart to know where you really want to be. You wrote a book, Chris, Change, and it's all about guide to personal transformation. Can you give us some takeaway from your book, Change?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was a lot of fun to write.
Huh?
And kind of the backstory to it is I started writing it before the pandemic, and the summer of 2019, and then I got my first manuscript back in February of 2020, and then of course the pandemic hit, and but I was able to use a lot of that manuscript in guiding our organizations, because we have multiple organizations, and our leadership teams through what is really an unprecedented period of time for change. And we were also able to use the parts of the manuscript for coaching some other teams, both nationally and internationally. I got asked to do some coaching, and I was able to use a lot of the material from that. And the book, change is the one thing that it's the one constant, right? That we always hear these cliches about change, but it's true. And I think as entrepreneurs and business people, change is the one skill we have to master. Because it's the one thing we're always going to deal with. And so for me, I think one of the career lessons that I've had over the years is being able to change with environments and anticipate things like a little bit before they're going to happen and kind of be open to it. So the whole premise of the book, it could be applied both personally and for business, because it's kind of one and the same, right? No matter where you go, there you are. And so it really walks people through why change is hard for us. We can spend some time on that. That's kind of fun. Why change is hard, gets into visioning, and then setting up specific change strategies.
Okay. So yeah, I do agree. Change is the only constant thing, and the world that we live in today will continuously change. I don't
Yeah,
think there's any controversy around that. But I know many people out there, they will want to know how to manage change. You said something about anticipate change. and be open to change. Are there other tips that you can share with us, especially around how to manage change?
So I think for first bullet to understand that we all come here pretty much wired the same, that we have a resistance to change. It's really kind of the human condition. And so like we all come by it naturally. So like there's no reason to judge ourselves for being resistant to change. And that's one of the first things we address in the book, right? Is getting people to understand that, look, there's nothing wrong with you. The fact that you don't like change makes you perfectly normal.
Yeah.
And right. And but we come by it naturally because in our prior human history, where our environments were a little more treacherous, saber-toothed tigers and whatever else was chasing us around, or lack of food, or whatever it could be, whatever the times were. Change typically presented to us, again, however far back you want to go, but change presented to us that there was danger, and so over millennia, we've just come to understand that change necessarily didn't mean that good things were coming. Yeah. And so, but now we're in a different environment. Mm-hmm. And we don't have things running around wanting to eat us, and marauding people, going through villages and things like that. Like we don't have that. And so we have this opportunity now to stop scanning for threats first and start scanning for opportunity first. So, the way we're kind of naturally wired because of our fight or flight instincts is that we scan for threat first, opportunity second. But we have the ability to kind of rewire, and we can talk a little bit about that too. How do we rewire our thinking so that we're scanning for opportunity first, threat second? And that's a big shift. And so people are resistant to change because historically, change, would typically mean that maybe something not so pleasant is on the horizon. But the reality of it is that if not for change, we would not be, just take us as an individual. If I did not go through change, I would not be where I am today.
That's right.
And wherever I want to go in the future will require change.
That's right.
So why not? So let's figure out how to make this work for us.
Yes. So yeah, I like the way you put it. Instead of us viewing change as a threat, if we start exploring opportunities in those changes, we are going to gain a different perspective, and that will help us to anticipate, embrace, and be open to change better. So I like that. You have this Mindful Monday series. What is it all about? Because I don't know if I'm sure you know this as a matter of fact. Most people, they are happier on weekends, maybe Friday. Thank God it's Friday.
Right.
Monday,
right.
For most people, they dread Monday because, of course, Monday is a day to go back to work. And many people, they are not doing what they enjoy. So having this Mindful Monday, I think it's something about Monday, how we can embrace Monday. But I want to hear from you. What is Mindful Monday all about?
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for asking. So again, it kind of came as part of what we were doing within our organization to help people find their way through the pandemic. It was a time of change, of course, fear. And so we started the Mindful Monday program. It's something that I do. And we started it in the pandemic as a way to help people, within our organization. It's expanded since that outside of the organization, but to basically give them a little bit of a jump start for a positive mindset for the week. And in fact, I have a second book that's in production now, which is called Mindful Mondays, and it'll have 52 Mindful Monday topics. They're very short topics. It'll get into things like managing your perspective, understanding what opportunity is, all those types of things. But it's been popular, um, and because I think, like you said, right, we got to get fired up for the week,
That's right.
and then how do we start the week on the right foot? And so that's really what it's about. So,
Okay. Because I also talk about career on my show, and my goal is to get more people to find something that they enjoy so that they can grow and thrive in their career. Are there
mm.
some tips that you can share with us so that people listening to this show will benefit from these tips or ideas or strategies on how to grow in their career? What do you have one thing to share with us?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thank you. So I have one topic that's kind of like my favorite, and it's called the myth of 100%.
Okay.
And so we're all culturalized, socialized to think that when we say oh, I'm going to give it 100%, that's some form of excellence. And so in my talks with people and and in in different settings, I challenge everyone to say, listen, 100% is neutral, because 99% means if you put in 99%, that means you're moving backwards.
Mhm.
If you put in 100%, you're neutral, because the only way you gain ground is the extra effort above 100%. You have to be at 101, 102, 103, 104, and so on. And so when we say we're going to give it 100%, 100% is what we pass through on our way to excellence, because we only make progress when we're above 100%. And so those are some of the things, Bola, that we talk about. It's a little bit about challenging the status quo thinking that people have, and kind of moving people outside of either how they've been culturalized, or like myths, right? Like I think, like I always look at 100% as it's a myth. It's 100% is neutral. It doesn't get you anywhere. You've got to be north of 100%.
Okay. So go above and beyond. That's what I'm
It's
hearing.
yeah, because look, I
Yeah.
mean, it's the extra effort.
Yeah.
It is only the extra effort. Like if you're an entrepreneur, or a striving entrepreneur, or trying to sort out your career, it's only in that space that's above 100%, and in the extra effort, that's going to move you forward.
Okay. No, that's a concept that's I'm going to be embracing because going that extra mile, that extra effort that you,
Extra mile.
I
Yeah,
think that's what's going to distinguish the successful people, the top performer from the average folks out there. So that is good. Uh, you talked about Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate. That's the residential company that you mentioned, right?
it is. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so we operate the one of the largest Better Homes and Gardens real estate franchises in the country, and that's our real estate operating company that we operate in New Hampshire, Maine, and Vermont,
Okay.
Massachusetts too.
Yeah, because I think I'm in Texas. I think I've seen that company somewhere, maybe when I was looking to buy a
Yeah,
house or something.
yeah,
So you guys are nationwide, I believe, right?
we are. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So let's go to rapid fire question section. Chris, what motivates you in your career?
Thanks, Bola. That's a good question. You know what motivates me the most is leaving things better than the way I found
Living that better way. Okay, I like that. So, what has been the greatest career lesson that you have learned, Chris?
it. Managing change.
Managing change.
Managing change successfully, and actually taking the people in our organization and basically co-creating solutions to change as it occurs.
Okay. So, if you are a reader, and I believe you are one, what book has impacted you the most?
So there's a book called Leadership Lessons from the Civil War, and 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 it's probably 20 years old now, maybe even a little bit more than that, and had huge impact on me because it was talking about the both the North and the South in the American Civil War, how they were basically trained in tactics that were really more from the Napoleonic era, and then all of a sudden you get into the American Civil War, and the technology totally changed. You had rapid transit with trains. You had telegraph, rapid communication, the equipment they used, rifled muskets, things like that, and really you had a whole group of leadership that was trained one way, and all of a sudden they were put into obviously pretty intense circumstances with totally new technology, and they had to forget everything they knew in most cases to learn all new tactics.
Okay, and finally, as a leader, what is one quality that you possess that has helped you to, get people to deliver for your organization?
I would say empathy.
Empathy. Yeah.
Different than sympathy.
Yeah.
But empathy and understanding what other people are going through, and how that really impacts the rest of the organization, and that ability to sit and listen with people, just sit and listen on how things are, what are better ways to do things, different perspectives. I have this kind of philosophy that if you and I were running a factory and we were having a production problem, it wouldn't, like, the smartest thing wouldn't be you and I to figure it out. The smartest thing would be to go down and hang out with the people on the floor that are doing the production and ask them what's the problem.
Yeah.
So I think the ability and the willingness and the patience to listen.
Okay. So as we are wrapping up, Chris, are there things that you want to tell my audience that we have not touched on?
Well, I guess I would go back to change, and just kind of encourage people to be mindful of their own thinking. So when we become resistant to things, what we resist is really what we're being called to know more about. And so I would be an advocate of, when you're resisting something, be really curious as to why. Like, don't just accept your own resistance. Like, start asking questions like, why am I resisting this? Like, why does it why does this bother me? And I think in that curiosity, you're going to find out a lot about yourself, and that'll help you grow and expand, your personal power.
That's good. You are an empowerment leader. I love motivating people. So maybe in 2 minutes, if you don't mind, what can you tell my audience to motivate them that first, maybe about change, maybe about long-term vision, maybe about anything that can transform their life? Because again, your book is about transformation, right? So I want you to motivate my audience to get ready for this transformation in this new year.
Well, okay, great. That's a fun topic. So I think understanding that we build habits every day.
Yes.
So what we have to do is understand that if I have this habit of whatever it might be, I'm not saying it's positive or negative because they can be both. It took me, the average person, the average habit could take 6 weeks to develop.
That's right.
Or if it's a habit you don't want, it could take 6 weeks to dissolve. And what we have to do, and it's hard in this age because we're used to DoorDash, food shows up in 30 minutes. We're used to texting, and we're used to immediacy for almost everything.
Instant gratification.
Yeah, instant gratification is to be patient with yourself,
right,
when you're trying to build new habits. Okay, and one of the strategies that I encourage people to deploy is, let's say you want to develop a habit and to change something, then take 6 weeks as a marker, and lay it out, lay every day, do a checkbox every day, because it's going to take you 6 weeks, more or less, depending on who you are, right?
Right.
But it's going to take you 6 weeks to get to where you want to go, and be patient with yourself and understand it's going to take you that much time. And so I think having more awareness about how we are wired, and so understanding that if I'm doing something, and it's something, let's say I want to develop a new habit. Let's say it's going to the gym. Well, it's going to take you a month or two to get into that rhythm and to get into that routine, and it's okay for it to take that long. But you've got to be patient with yourself, and you've got to give yourself the time to develop new synaptic connections. That's why that term, how we got to rewire our brains. Well, that's what it means when we say rewiring. We're actually literally building new neural connections around whatever this new thing is we want to do. Or we have to dissolve the neural connections, okay, for the thing that I want to stop doing. But either way, it's going to take me 6 weeks to build it, or it's going to take me 6 weeks to dissolve it. And be deliberate about that. Understand that it's going to take that long. And if you got to take, if you got to do like on your calendar or on your Outlook, mark it off on every calendar and on every day, then do that. That's fine. But be patient with yourself, because that's the only way you're really going to build the habits of both personal, financial, and career success.
Okay, I love that. So what I heard right there is that change takes time. You have to be patient with yourself. You have to stay persistent. You have to be deliberate and be intentional before you can see any meaningful results. Thank you very much, Chris, for sharing that with us. Finally, your book, Change, Short and Simple, your guide to personal transformation. Where can we find it?
You can find it on Amazon and Barnes and Noble.
Amazon and Barnes and Noble. So where can my audience find you so that they can connect with you and continue to have that engagement with you?
Yeah. Thank you for asking. They can just go to chrismasiello.com.
chrismasiello.com. All right. Thank you very much for coming on the show today. We have come to the end of it today. Thank you. We appreciate your time, Chris.
Yeah. Thank you, Bo. It's great to be with you and your community.